welcome back class. So today we'll be discussing yung first and last topic of 2021. So yung last topic natin for this sem is recording business transactions. Okay, so alam niyo na kung paano na-affect yung mga accounts, kung ano yung nag-i-increase at nagdi-decrease sa mga accounts yung mga transactions natin, right? On previous chapter, alam nyo yung mga nag-i-increase in cash, nag-i-increase in capital, so on and so forth. So now, we will dive deeper. Okay, so so we will be discussing yung journalizing and posting. Okay, so yung discussion natin for today mas mahaba kaysa normal kasi tatapusin na natin tong buong chapter na to for this video para next week finals na agad. Okay, so first let's discuss the accounting cycle. Okay, so the accounting cycle refers to a series of sequential steps or procedures performed to accomplish the accounting process. Okay, so throughout the period of the business, right? Kailangan mong i-account ang mga transactions, right? Ang goal nga ng accounting is to provide information to users. So in order to provide information, you need steps to get that information. So these are the steps. Okay, so yung steps 1 to 3, these are done during the accounting period. Okay, so this is during the business year. While steps 4 to 9, this is at the end of accounting period or at the end of the accounting business year. While step 10 is done at the start of the next period. So step 1 is identification of events to be recorded. Okay, so yung mga events kasi merong mga events na hindi may re-record and merong events na kailangan may record. Okay, so yung mga events na pwedeng i-record, for example, pagbayad ng utang, pagbili, right, pagbenta, so these are all recordable. While naman yung mga events na hindi kailangan ng i-record, for example, bumisita yung president ng isang kumpanya sa isang department, right? That is an event of the business pero hindi mo naman kailangan i-record 'yon. So you need to identify if events need to be recorded or not to be recorded. Another example, yung mga events na hindi kailangan i-record, yung pag-order. Right? Kung nag-order pa lang tayo, meaning wala pang confirmation kung na-approve ba yung order natin, wala pa silang i-deliver, right? Wala pa yung babayaran natin. Meaning order lang talaga, like kung mag-order ka sa online shop. Kung order pa lang, hindi mo muna kailangang i-record 'yon. Right? Kasi wala namang na-affect na utang, wala namang na-affect na cash, na assets, yung capital, and so on and so forth. Next is step 2. Transactions are recorded in the journal. Okay? So if events are deemed to be recordable or kailangan nang i-record, these are recorded in the journal. Okay, so yung mga debits and credits, dito na yung journal natin. Okay? Next, after natin i-record sa journal, kailangan natin siyang i-transfer sa ledger. Okay, so kung i-transfer na natin sa ledger, ang tawag doon is posting. Okay, so that is why kaya tinawag dito na journal entries are posted to the ledger. Then after nun, every transaction, every event na kailangan i-record, gagawin nyo lahat to, yung steps 2 and 3. Kailangan nyo i-record sa journal, kailangan nyo i-transfer sa ledger. At the end of the business year, at the end of the period, meron na tayong mga balances for every account, right? So meron tayong ending balance of the cash, meron tayong ending balance of our payables, meron tayong ending balance for our capital. So every account title, meron siyang ending balance na makikita natin sa ledger. At dahil meron na tayong balance, we can now prepare a trial balance. Okay, so yung trial balance, ilalagay nyo lang dito yung mga balances ng every account. Tapos, ilalagay nyo lang kung ang balance ba niya is debit balance or credit balance. Tapos, ilagay nyo yun for every account. Tapos, tignan nyo kung equal ba ang debit and credit. Kasi yun yung, that is the goal or the objective of a trial balance. It is to verify the quality of debits and credits in the ledger. Next, step 5, preparation of worksheet including adjusting entries. Okay, this is to prepare or to make it easier for us to prepare financial statements. Next, step 6 is to prepare yung financial statements. Kasi yung mga financial statements, medyo marami-rami sila. You have your balance sheet, you have your income statement, you have your statement of changes in owner's equity, you have your cash flows, okay? You have your notes to financial statements. So those are your financial statements. Step 7, adjusting journal entries are journalized and posted. Okay, so kung meron mga accounts natin na kailangan nating i-adjust, we need to adjust those and we need to journalize and post them. Step 8, closing journal entries are journalized and posted. Okay, so yung mga closing entries natin, ang goal lang nito is to close the temporary accounts. Meaning, yung temporary accounts, these are our income and expense. Okay? Step 9, preparation of a post-closing trial balance. Halos parehas lang din sila ng trial balance dito. Ang difference lang ng trial balance sa step 4 and sa post-closing trial balance sa step 9, yung post-closing trial balance, wala na siyang income and expenses. Okay? While under the trial balance, meron pa rin siyang income and expenses. Sa post-closing trial balance kasi, dahil wala na siyang income and expense, ka-close na kasi siya under step 8. While step 10, reversing journal entries are journalized and posted. Okay, so these are all the steps in under the accounting cycle. Pero we are primarily concerned with steps 1 to 3. Okay, identification, journalizing, and posting. These are, ito lang ang di-discuss natin. Okay, so under the general journal, dito natin ilalagay yung mga effects ng transactions according to their date, right? So, for example, on January 1, there is a investment ng isang owner. Okay, so kung may investment ng owner, for example, nag-invest siya ng cash sa business natin. So, nag-invest siya ng cash. So, dahil tumaas ang cash, we debit cash. Okay, we debit cash. Tapos, dahil tumaas ang capital, we credit capital. Okay, so, all of the transactions are recorded in the journal entry. So, ganito ang kita ng isang journal entry. Meron yung nasa left side, yung nandito, this is your debit. Tapos, yung na-indent, yung medyo nasa right side, that is your credits. Okay, so every transaction or every event na pwede i-record, re-record natin sa journal according to their date. Okay, chronologically, ipopost natin siya sa journal. Tapos after nyo ilagay sa journal, kailangan natin siyang i-transfer sa ledger. Okay, so kung makikita nyo dito, sa example dito sa chapter na to, ang journal entry is meron siyang debit ng office equipment. So meaning, tumaas yung office equipment niya. Right? So baka baka bumili siya ng office equipment. Tapos kung makikita niyo, meron siyang credit na cash. So dahil na-credit yung cash, meaning lumiit yung cash. Right? So nagbayad siya ng pera for that office equipment. Tapos meron din siyang accounts payable na credit. Okay? So dahil meron siyang credit na accounts payable, meaning meron siyang utang. So yung pinambili niya ng office equipment, hindi based on cash lahat. So baka meron siyang down payment na cash, tapos the rest of the payment is utang na. Okay? So this is the journal entry under the chapter. After natin journalize sa general journal, ita-transfer natin siya sa ledger. Okay, so sa ledger kasi, every account title, every account title has its own part, has its own hindi basta meron siyang every account title uh, meron siyang part na makikita mo yung balance niya, right? So, kung makikita nyo dito, meron siyang separate for cash, separate for office equipment, and separate sa accounts payable. So, every time na nag-ano tayo sa journal, every time na nagjo-journalize tayo sa journal, transfer natin siya sa ledger. Okay, so if you take a look at office equipment, yung amount na na-debit sa office equipment, ito transfer din natin sa ledger. So, ilalagay nyo din sa debit ng under the office equipment. While yung credit natin sa cash, ito transfer din natin siya sa cash. Tapos yung credit sa accounts payable, ito transfer ulit natin siya sa accounts payable. So, we do all of this for every transaction. Okay? Until sa ledger, nag-accumulate na yung mga balances. So, sa ledger, nag-accumulate yung mga balances ng every account. So, every time na meron tayong ginagamit na cash or meron tayong nare-receive na cash, pumupunta muna sa journal, tapos na ito transfer sa ledger. In effect, makikita na natin ang balance sa ledger, right? So, after natin i-transfer sa ledger, after natin makuha ang balances of every account, makikita na natin, pwede na natin siyang gawin yung trial balance. It is just a listing of all ledger accounts in order with their respective debit and credit balances. Okay, so kung ano yung balance nila sa ledger, i-transfer lang natin siya sa trial balance para makita natin kung balance ba or kung equal ba ang mga debits natin and credits natin. Okay, so let's first move to the first step, transaction analysis. First step is to identify if the transactions should be recorded, right? So, we have 4 basic steps. Identify the transaction from source documents. Indicate the accounts. Okay, indicate the accounts, either asset, liabilities, equity, income, or expenses affected by the transaction. And lastly, ascertain whether each account is increased or decreased by the transaction. Ay tapos, after natin na-ascertain kung nag-increase or decrease ba siya, using the rules of debit and credit, determine whether to debit or credit the account to record its increase or decrease. Okay, so, yung mga under the transaction analysis, kailangan natin i-analyze yung mga transactions. So, yung mga transactions, we are basing the transaction from the source documents. Okay, so ano yung source documents? Source documents identify and describe transactions and events entering the accounting process. These original written evidences contain information about the nature and the amount of the transactions. Okay, so yung mga source documents lang, so yung mga evidences na merong transactions. So ano yung mga source documents natin? Nakalagay dito, sales invoice. Okay, so kung meron tayong benta, mag-i-issue kasi tayo ng sales invoice. So that is a basis. First, next, cash register tapes, official receipts. Okay, kung meron tayong binabayaran, right, meron tayong mare-receive na official receipt. So that is another source document. Bank deposit slip, ito naman kung meron tayong dineposit sa isang bank. Bank statements, yung mga binibigay ng bangko regarding our account under sa bank. Checks, purchase orders, time cards, and statement of accounts. Okay, so yung time cards, this is for your employees, yung mga binabayaran natin na sweldo nila. After natin determine kung pwede i-record ba natin, we need to journalize them. So a journal is a chronological record of the entity's transaction. A journal entry shows all the effects of a business transaction in terms of debits and credits. Each transaction is initially recorded in a journal rather than directly in a ledger. Okay, so a journal is called the book of original entry. And next, general journal is the simplest journal. Okay, so yung my journal kasi merong tayong iba't ibang types of journal. There are journals that specialize in specific transactions. For example, a purchase journal is specialized in purchases, while disbursement journals are specialized in payments. Pero ang general journal, pwede any type of transaction can be recorded under the general journal. So, kung makikita nyo dito, this is the format of a journal. Okay? So, ganito yung kita ng journal. Tapos ito, ganito yung kita ng isang journal entry. So, we have the format of the journal. Nandito sa left side is the date. Right? Makita nyo yung year and the month and specific day. While next is the account titles and explanations. So, yung account titles, that is your cash, plus Del Mundo Capital, right, in this specific transaction. Tapos, yung explanation is this initial investment. Yung explanation, nakalagay lang dito kung ano yung transaction na re-record mo. So, in this case, this is the initial investment of Del Mundo Capital. So, yung walang specific format for the explanation. Basta ma-state mo lang kung ano yung transaction. So, hindi necessary na initial investment lang ilagay dito. Pwede ding to record the initial investment of Del Mundo Capital or pwede ding Del Mundo Capital invested 450,000. Parang ganun. Basta may masabi mo lang or ma-explain mo lang kung ano yung transaction na naganap. Number 3, posting reference. This is used when the entries are posted. That is until the amounts are transferred to the related ledger account. Okay, so kung pinost na natin kasi ang mga journal entries, merong specific account number. For every account, meron kasi siyang account number sa ledger. So after natin ipo-post ito, for example, pinost natin ang cash, right? After natin pinost yung cash, after natin i-transfer sa ledger, titignan natin yung account number under sa ledger, tapos ilalagay natin dito. Saka lang natin ilalagay sa posting reference kung na-transfer na natin sa ledger to avoid confusion. Okay? Next is the debit. So ito yung debit side and the debit column, tapos ito yung credit column. Ito yung transaction na example dito. Assume that on November 1, 2016, Galicano Del Mundo invests 450,000 to open his business, Del Mundo Landscape Specialist. Okay, so on November 1 nga dito, nag-invest si Del Mundo ng 450,000. So dahil nag-invest siya ng 450,000, you first determine under this type, identify the transaction. So ito na yung transaction. Ito na yung transaction, right? Next step, indicate the account, either asset, liability, equity, income, or expense. So, under this transaction, ano yung account na na-affect? So, dahil nag-invest siya ng 450,000, ano ba yung 450,000? That is pera, right? So, pera is an asset. So, asset is affected. Next, dahil nag-invest si Galicano or Del Mundo, dahil nag-invest si Del Mundo, na-affect yung capital kasi nga capital is just the representation of the ownership of the owners. Right? So, dahil nag-invest siya, na-affect yung capital. Next step, nakalagay dito, ascertain whether each account is increased or decreased. Okay, so, titingnan natin kung nag-increase or decrease ba ang mga account. So, ano ba yung account na na-affect dito? So, sabi ko nga kanina, yung 450,000, that is our cash. Tapos, yung dahil nag-invest siya, that is the capital. So, dahil naka-receive ang business ng cash increased. So, cash increased. Tapos, dahil nag-invest si Del Mundo, capital also increased. So, in this transaction, both the cash and capital increased. The next step and last step, using the rules of debit and credit, determine whether to debit or credit accounts to record its increases or decreases. Okay? So, always remember the accounting equation. Asset is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Nasa left side ang asset, nasa right side ang liabilities and owner's equity. If asset increases, dahil nasa left side siya, kailangan nating i-record siya sa left side din. Tapos kung liability or owner's equity naman ang tumaas dahil nasa right side sila, dapat nasa right side din ang pinagre-record natin. So yung left side is the debit and right side is the credit, as you can see here. So dahil nag-increase ang cash and cash is an asset, asset is on the left side of the accounting equation. So we should record this on the left side. 450,000 yung cash. That is our debit. Next, dahil nag-increase ang capital, capital is on the right side of the accounting equation. Right? So dahil nag-increase ang capital, dapat right side din yung pinagre-record natin. So, Del Mundo Capital, that is the account title. Del Mundo Capital, credit 450,000. So, credit yung right side. Tapos, ilagay nyo lang yung explanation, initial investment. Okay, so ganun ang pag-record. Ganun ang pag-journalize under the journal. Okay, so yung diniscuss natin last chapter, yung mga transactions na merong increases and decreases of from the transactions, ilagay nyo lang dito, i-transfer nyo lang dito sa debit and credit. Simple and compound entry. Okay, so simple entry it just means that only two accounts are affected. Katulad nito, two accounts are affected. One debit and one credit. Okay? While a compound entry, it means that more than two accounts are affected. Either two or more debits tapos one credit, or two or more credits tapos one debit, or pwede ding two or more debits and two or more credits. Okay, basta more than one on the debit and credit side, that is a compound entry. Okay. So next, transactions are journalized. Okay, so in this part, meron na tayong illustration kung paano sa mga transaction kung paano tayo magjo-journalize. Okay, so in this case, we are recording the business of Del Mundo Landscape Specialist. Okay, so on the first transaction, the owner of Del Mundo Landscape Specialist, Galicano Del Mundo, invests 450,000 to open the business. Okay, so nag-invest si Del Mundo ng 450,000. So, the analysis for this transaction, nag-increase ang asset kasi nga meron siyang increase in cash. Tapos nag-increase din ang capital kasi nag-invest si Del Mundo. So there is an increase in asset and increase in owner's equity. Rules, okay? Yung rules kung ano ba, debit ba or credit. So increases in assets are recorded by debit. Take note on your accounting equation. While increases in owner's equity are recorded by credit. Okay, so entry, increase in asset is recorded by a debit to cash kasi cash yung na-affect. Right? Tapos, increase in owner's equity is recorded by credit to Del Mundo Capital. So, we debit cash, 450,000, and credit Del Mundo Capital, 450,000. Okay, next transaction, rent paid in advance. Rented office space and paid 3 months rent in advance. Take note, in advance siya, 21,000. Given the length of time, i.e. more than 1 month that this contract is in effect, the matching principle requires that the contract cost initially be recorded as an asset since it provides a future benefit. Okay, so in this case, meron tayong payment in advance, right? Meron tayong payment in advance. Hindi pa natin siya pwedeng i-expense, right? Kasi hindi pa natin siya gastos. Saka lang natin siya masasabing gastos natin kung ano na tayo yung 3 months, right? Kung na-consume na natin yung 3 months or kung na-consume na natin ang 1 month each, right? So, for every month, pwede tayo mag-record ng expense. So, in this case, dahil 21,000 ang binayaran natin, that is a payment in advance, we cannot record this as an expense. So, any payments in advance, we consider that as an asset. Asset sa atin siya Kasi it will be transferred as an expense in the future. So bale parang nag-acquire tayo ng mangbabayad ng nag-acquire tayo ng pagbayad for in the future, right? So that is an asset. So dahil meron tayong prepayment that is a prepaid asset. So asset increase. Tapos dahil nagbayad nga tayo ng 21,000, yung 21,000 pera naman yun. So an asset also decrease. So in this case, meron tayong increase in asset tapos decrease in asset as well. So the rules, increase in assets are recorded by debit, while decrease in assets are recorded by credit. So the entry, so we should debit your prepaid rent, 21,000. So yung binayaran natin na payment in advance, that is our prepaid rent na 21,000. Tapos we credit cash, 21,000. Kasi nga, nagbayad tayo ng pera, meaning lumiit ang asset natin through cash. So we need to credit 21,000. Next, vehicle acquired by showing a note. So November 2, Del Mundo purchases a 300,000 used truck by paying 200,000 in cash and signing a 200,000 notes payable, which is due in 18 months. Okay, so in this case, meron tayong biniling truck. So what is a truck? That is an asset. Asset sa atin ang isang truck. We are paying 200,000 in cash. Okay, so ano yung cash? That is also an asset. So dahil nagbayad tayo, that is a decrease in asset. Signing 100,000 notes payable. So meron tayong nag-sign na 100,000 pesos notes payable. So yung notes payable, utang natin siya. That is a promissory note. So ano yung utang? That is a liability. So liability increase. Right? So from the 300,000, 200,000 yung binayaran natin, tapos 100,000, yun yung utang natin. So yung rules, increase in assets are recorded by debit. So yung increase is by acquisition of the truck. Decrease in assets are recorded by credit. So the decrease in assets is by the payment of cash. Increases in liabilities are recorded by credit. So yung increase in liabilities, nag-issue kasi tayo ng notes payable. So we debit vehicle, yung in-acquire nating truck, that is a vehicle. So 300,000 debit. We credit cash kasi nagbayad tayo ng cash, 200,000 credit. We credit also notes payable kasi isa siyang liability. Remember, liability is on the right side of the accounting equation. So kung nag-increase ang liability, it should also be on the right side. So ano yung right side? That is the credit. So notes payable, credit 100,000. Next, equipment acquired for cash. Okay, Del Mundo purchased a mechanical lawnmower for 54,000 in cash. So, simple na lang to. Bumili tayo ng lawnmower, tapos nagbayad tayo ng pera. So, dahil meron tayong biniling lawnmower, meron tayong increase in asset. So, we debit equipment, 54,000 kasi nga bumili tayo ng lawnmower. Tapos, we credit cash, 54,000 kasi nagbayad tayo ng pera. Next, expenses incurred and paid. On November 4, Del Mundo purchases 1,500 pesos worth of gasoline. Okay, so, ano ba yung gasoline? Hindi pwede maging asset. Asset ito kasi gagamitin lang din natin ito sa vehicles natin, right? Hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin na asset to. Hindi naman natin gagamitin. Hindi naman natin physically magagamit. Yung manggagamit lang is the vehicle. Right? So, we consider this as an expense. Gastos natin ito. Expense. Remember that expense decreases the owner's equity. So, because of that, under analysis, owner's equity decreases. Tapos dahil nagbayad tayo ng pera, asset also decreases. So, yung expense, it decreases owner's equity. So, dahil dinecrease niya ang owner's equity, dapat kabaliktaran siya ng owner's equity. Okay? So, ano yung owner's equity? Siya ay nasa right side of the accounting equation, right? So, any increases in the owner's equity is on the credit. Tapos, any decreases in the owner's equity should be on the debit side. So, dahil ang expense is dinidecrease niya ang owner's equity, it should be on the debit side. So, we debit gas expense, 1,500. Okay? We credit cash, 1,500. So, meron tayong decrease of owner's equity dahil sa expense, kaya siya na-debit. Tapos, meron tayong decrease in cash, kaya siya na-credit. Next, insurance premiums paid. Del Mundo pays 24,000 for a 1-year insurance contract that protects his business from November 1 until October 31 of the following year. So, itong insurance, parehas lang din siya ng prepaid rent. Parehas lang din siya ng prepaid asset. Kasi, kapag nagbabayad tayo ng premiums under sa insurance, it's basically a prepayment para sa expense na may incur natin in the future. Okay, so we debit prepaid insurance kasi nga meron tayong prepaid asset. So we debit prepaid insurance 24,000 and we credit cash kasi nagbayad tayo using cash 24,000. Supplies purchased on account. Okay, so Del Mundo purchases 1,000 worth of office supplies, placing the purchase on his account with the store rather than paying cash. Okay, kung makikita nyo itong on account, basta yung words na on account or on credit, it implies na yung transaction is wala siyang binayarang pera. So, utang muna. So, dahil dito, sabi dito, placing the purchase on his account. So, meaning utang lang ito. So, dahil meron tayong biniling of 1,000 worth na office supplies, so, yung office supplies, that is our asset. Kahit magagamit naman natin ang supplies. So, nag-increase ang asset natin. Tapos, dahil on account, utang lang muna, tumaas ang liability natin. Utang nga eh. So, dahil nag-increase ang liability natin, nag-increase ang liability natin. Okay, so, we debit supplies. Right? We debit supplies kasi nag-increase ang asset natin. So, that is a debit. Increase in asset. 1,000. Tapos, we credit accounts payable kasi utang nga. Okay? Utang. Hindi naman tayo nag-issue ng promissory note. So, accounts lang siya, hindi notes payable. So, we credit notes payable 1,000. Credit siya kasi tumaas ang utang. Tumaas ang liability. Okay, on November 14, Del Mundo Landscape Specialty cuts grass for 7 customers, receiving 2,500 from each. Okay, remember that Del Mundo Landscape Specialty is our business. Ito yung business na ina-account natin. Okay, so in this case, nag-cut siya ng grass for 7 customers. So, meaning nag-render siya ng services. Yung na-receive na 2,500, that is income for the business. Okay? So, dahil naka-receive tayo ng pera, nag-increase ang asset natin. Asset increase. And dahil meron tayong income, owner's equity increase. Okay? Always remember na income increases owner's equity, while expenses decreases owner's equity. So, dahil dito meron tayong income, kasi nga nag-render siya ng services, right? So, meron tayong income, nag-increase ang owner's equity natin. So, we debit cash, 17,500. Ay, bakit? 17,500 kasi 2,500 for each of the 7 customers. So, we basically 2,500 times 7. So, we get 17,500 yung total na na-receive nating pera. So, we debit cash, 17,500 kasi nag-increase ang asset natin. We credit loan cutting revenues. Okay, so yung Yung loan cutting revenues, this is an income account. Okay, income account ito. So, yung income, it increases your owner's equity. So, kung nag-increase ang owner's equity, that is on the credit side, right? Kasi nasa right side siya ng accounting equation. So, credit, loan cutting revenues, 17,500. Next, Del Mundo receives 13,500 from a customer for 6 future maintenance visits. So, in this transaction, meron tayong na-receive na payment from customers pero hindi pa tayo nagre-render ng services. Wala pang ginagawa ang business natin. This is only for future services. So in this case, dahil wala pa tayong nare-render ng services, wala pa tayong income. Right? Saka lang tayo magre-record ng income kung meron na tayong na-render na services. Kung nagtrabaho na ang business, saka lang may income. So dahil meron pa tayong gagawin on the future, meaning meron tayong obligasyon na mag-render ng service in the future. Yung obligation, that is a liability on our part. So dahil nga naka-receive tayo ng 13,500 na pera, nag-increase ang asset natin. Tapos dahil meron tayong ipe-perform na services in the future, we are obligated to perform service in the future. So our liabilities increase. Utang yon, hindi siya income. Okay? So we debit cash, 13,500 sa amount na na-receive natin. We credit unearned revenues, 13,500. Take note of the word unearned. Hindi pa natin siya na-earn. Hindi pa siya income. So, yung unearned, it is a liability. Okay? Next, on November 22, Del Mundo Landscape Specialist cuts grass for 8 customers, billing each one 2,500 but receiving no cash. Okay, so in this case, nag-render ng services si Del Mundo Landscape Specialist. So in this case, meron tayong income. Kasi nga, nag-render na siya ng services. Pero wala tayong na-receive na cash. Okay? Regardless of whether we receive cash or not, it is still income para sa atin. Dahil dahil nagtrabaho tayo, that is income. Hindi basis ang pera sa income. Ang basis is kung nagtrabaho tayo. So, dahil wala pa tayong nare-receive na cash, meron tayong mako-collect in the future, right? Merong utang ang customers natin sa business. So dahil meron tayong mare-receive in the future, that is an asset for us. So an asset is increased. Tapos dahil nag-render nga tayo ng services, that is an income. Owner's equity increased. Income increases owner's equity. So we debit accounts receivable, 'di ba? Accounts receivable kapag merong utang ang customers natin or kung meron tayong mare-receive in the future, right? So accounts receivable debit 20,000 kasi hindi pa nagbayad ang customer. Credit loan cutting revenues 20,000. Magre-record tayo ng income kasi nga nag-render na tayo ng services. So dahil income, ini-increase niya ang owner's equity, and owner's equity is on the right side of the accounting equation, we should also record this on the right side. Next, salaries paid. Del Mundo pays 4,000 in salaries to a part-time employee. Okay. First, nagbayad tayo ng pera. So, nag-decrease ang asset natin. Asset decrease. Tapos next, yung salaries na to, that is an expense of the business. Gastos siya ng business. And expense decreases the owner's equity, thus owner's equity decreases. Pero this is an expense. Right? Expense pa rin siya. So we debit salaries expense 4,000. Take note that salaries expense is an expense account. So kaya nga merong letter E dito. It is an expense account. Yung income account and expense account kasi sineseparate muna natin bago natin siya ito-transfer sa mismong owner's equity. So separate muna ang income and expense, pero at the end of the period, ito-transfer natin siya sa owner's equity. So salaries expense, we debit for 4,000. Yung salaries expense, it decreases owner's equity. So, kapag nagdi-decrease ang owner's equity, nasa left side siya, right? Kabaliktaran siya ng normal balance niya. So, debit 4,000, credit cash 4,000 kasi nagbayad tayo ng pera. On November 28, Del Mundo pays 1,750 to print advertising flyers. Okay, so yung print advertising flyers, this is an expense again of the business. Ito isang gastos ng business. Gastos niya para ma-advertise ang business. Right? So, dahil meron siyang expense, again, we debit expense, 1,750. At dahil nagbayad siya ng pera, we credit cash, 1,750. Withdrawal of cash by owner. November 21, Del Mundo withdraws 5,000 for personal use. Dahil nag-withdraw yung 5,000, meaning nawalan ng pera yung business ng 5,000, asset decreases. Dahil nag-withdraw si Del Mundo, lumiit ang ownership niya sa business. So, owner's equity decreases. So, dahil nag-decrease ang owner's equity, dapat nasa debit ito, right? So, Del Mundo withdrawals. Take note on the word withdrawals. Del Mundo withdrawals, 5,000 kasi lumiit ang owner's equity, so kabaliktaran dapat siya ng right side, which is left side. So, debit, 5,000. Credit cash, 5,000 kasi lumiit ang pera ng business ng 5,000. Accounts receivable, partially collected. 5 of the 8 customers billed last November 24, each pay 2,500. Okay, so nagbayad yung utang ng mga customers natin. So meron tayong na-collect na pera. So dahil meron tayong na-collect na pera, nag-increase ang asset natin. That is the cash. Tapos dahil nga nagbayad na yung customers natin, nagbayad sila, lumiit yung mare-receive natin. So, lumiit yung accounts receivable. So, that is another decrease in the asset. So, yung accounts receivable, that is an asset, right? So, dahil nagbayad na sila, lumiit yung accounts receivable, decrease in asset. Debit cash, 12,500. 2,500 yung binayaran ng each customer. Tapos, 5 customer yung nagbayad. So, 2,500 times 5 is 12,500. So, debit cash, 12,500. Credit accounts receivable, 12,500. So, we credit accounts receivable kasi lumiit siya. So, tatanggalan natin siya ng 12,500. So, ganun yung pag-journalize. Pag-journalize ng mga transactions. You determine kung ano yung mga accounts na na-affect, yung asset ba, liabilities, owner's equity, income, or expense. Tapos, tignan nyo yung mga normal balances nila, kung debit ba or credit. Take note na yung normal balance ng asset is a debit, normal balance ng mga liabilities and owner's equity is credit. While expense naman, normal balance ng expense is a debit, while normal balance ng income is credit. Okay? Tapos tignan nyo kung nag-increase or nag-decrease ba ang mga accounts. Then, tapos yung malaman kung nag-increase or decrease ba, i-record nyo na sa appropriate column kung debit ba siya or credit. Next, after natin ma-journalize mga transactions, kailangan natin siya i-transfer sa ledger. Okay? A general ledger is the reference book of the accounting system and is used to classify and summarize transactions. Dito natin sila i-classify and sinasummarize to prepare data for basic financial statements. Okay? Accounts in general ledger are classified into two general groups. First is the permanent accounts or your balance sheet accounts. Yung balance sheet, yung permanent accounts natin, this is our assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. Okay? While yung next group is the temporary or income statement accounts. This is our income and expenses. Okay? Temporary accounts lang sila kasi nga every end of accounting period, ita-transfer natin sila sa owner's equity. Okay? Ang use lang kasi ng income and expense account is to determine the profit or loss of the business for the period. After na natin na-determine ang profit or loss for the period, kailangan na natin siyang i-transfer sa owner's equity. Okay? So these are the two types of account. Next is the chart of account. Chart of account is just a listing of all the accounts and their account numbers. Okay, so nakalagay lang dito yung mga accounts na ginagamit ng business and yung mga account number nila. Okay? So yung account number, ito yung ginagamit, ito yung ilalagay natin sa posting reference. Right? Tapos ito din yung ilalagay din natin sa ledger. So makikita nyo yung chart of accounts. Yung balance sheet accounts is meron siyang assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. Tapos, yung income statement accounts, meron siyang income and expenses. Yun lang. Tapos, makikita nyo rin yung mga account number for every account title. So, 110 for cash, 120 for accounts receivable, okay? So, typically, assets will begin with the number 1. Kaya number 1 lahat dito. Liabilities, number 2. Owner's equity, number 3. Tapos, yung income, number 4. And expenses, number 5. Tapos, yung susunod, yun na yung specific sa every type of account. Okay, so, yung cash, accounts receivable, supply. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.5 ito, or 65 ito kasi yung accumulated depreciation vehicles, this is actually connected sa vehicles. It is, yung use lang nito, yung accumulated depreciation, yung use lang nito is to decrease the amount of the vehicle account. While ito naman, yung accumulated depreciation na to, yung use niya is to decrease the amount of the equipment account. Okay, so related sila sa isang account. So, ganun lang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ganun lang. Okay, so next step, posting. So we have the steps in posting. Okay. So posting is just yung pinag-transfer lang natin yung mga amounts from the journal to the ledger. So we have steps. Step number 1, transfer the date of the transaction from the journal to the ledger. Okay, so first we need to transfer the date para alam natin kung kailan ito naganap. Next is to transfer the page number. Okay, yung page number, it is dependent on the journal. Tingnan nyo lang kung ano yung number under sa journal. Next is to post the debit figure from the journal as a debit figure in the ledger and the credit figure from the journal as a credit figure in the ledger. So, ito transfer nyo lang. Ikokopyahin nyo lang kung debit ba siya sa journal, edi i-debit nyo din siya sa ledger. Kung credit siya sa journal, edi credit nyo din siya sa ledger. Transfer nyo lang. Number 4, enter the account number in the posting reference column of the journal once the figure has been posted to the ledger. Okay, kung na-post na, babalik ka ulit sa journal, tapos ilagay nyo na yung posting reference. Okay? So, yung posting reference, it is just the account number. Account number ng specific account. Okay? So, titingnan nyo ulit dito. So, kung yung ito transfer natin is cash, so ilalagay nyo sa journal is 110. Okay? Ledger accounts after posting. At the end of the accounting period, the debit and credit balance of each account must be determined. Okay, so after every accounting period, dapat i-total natin yung mga debits, all the debits and credits for every account. Tapos after natin na-total yung mga debits and credits, by the way, kapag itino-total natin ang mga debits and credits, it is called footing. Okay. If the sum of an account's debit is tapos after natin may total yung mga debits and credits, tignan nyo lang kung ano yung mas malaki. Kung mas malaki ba ang debit or mas malaki ba ang credit ng isang account. If the debit is higher than the credit, masasabi nyo na yung account meron siyang debit balance. Pero kung mas malaki ang credit kaysa sa debit, masasabi nyo na yung isang account is meron siyang credit balance. Okay? So, ganun lang yun. So, yung journal, yung pa-post ganito yung At kita niya, first, you transfer the date, right? So, in this case, November 1 yung date niya, 2016. So, under the ledger, ilagay nyo din siya. 2016, November 1. 2016, November 1. Okay? As you can see, separate yung under sa cash, tapos separate yung under sa Del Mundo. Kasi nga, sabi ko, under sa ledger, every account title has its own part in the ledger. Kasi nga, ang goal nga ng ledger is to determine the balance of every account title. So after transferring the date, next is to transfer the page number. So kita nyo dito, sa example natin, page 1 ito. Okay, so under sa ledger, i-transfer nyo sa journal reference. So J1 meaning journal page 1. J1 journal page 1. Okay, after nun, number 3 is to transfer the debits and credits. So in this case, merong debit yung cash. So under sa cash, i-debit nyo yung 450,000. Tapos, next is Del Mundo, meron siyang credit na 450,000. So under sa Del Mundo part ng ledger, i-transfer nyo yung credit na 450,000. Tapos ilagay nyo na din yung balance niya ng 450,000. Number 4, after na natin na i-transfer yung amount nito sa ledger, babalik tayo sa journal, tapos ilalagay natin yung account number nila. Okay? So after natin i-transfer yung cash, ilalagay natin yung account number ng cash which is 110 sa journal, 110. Tapos yung after natin i-transfer yung Del Mundo Capital, ilagay nyo yung account number ng Del Mundo Capital which is 310. So lagay nyo dito 310. Okay? So as you can see, ganito yung effect. Ganito yung effect ng pag-post. As you can see, every account title meron siyang balance. So, November 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tapos 14. So, ganito lang. Every debits under sa journal, i-transfer nyo dito sa debit. Every credit under sa journal, i-transfer nyo din sa credit. Tapos, at the end of the period, you add the total of the debits and credits. So, yung total debit sa cash is 493,500. While the total credit sa cash is 311,250. Tapos, tignan nyo kung ano yung mas malaki. Diba? Mas malaki yung debit. So, you subtract it from the credit or the balance of the credit to get its debit balance. So, 493,500 less 311,250 is 182,250. Right? So, dahil mas malaki ang debit, cash has a debit balance. Same goes with every account title. I-transfer nyo lang from the journal to the ledger to get the balance. So, the balance of the accounts receivable is 7,500. Balance of the notes payable is 100,000. Balance of the accounts payable is 1,000. Balance of unearned revenues is 13,500 and so on and so forth. You do this for every account title. Okay, so every account title na ginamit natin sa journal, ito transfer natin sa ledger para makuha ang balance. Okay? So after na natin nakuha yung balances ng mga every account title, right? So, 'di ba makita niyo sa ledger, makikita niyo na yung mga balances nila. Pwede na natin gawin ang trial balance. Sabi ko kaninang trial balance, yung goal lang niya is to determine the equality of debit and credit or to determine the balance of kung balance ba ang debit and credit. So we have steps. List the account titles in numerical order. Okay, so yung numerical order is based on the chart of accounts. Number 2, obtain the account balance of each account from the ledger and enter the debit balances in the debit column and credit balances in the credit column. So basically just copy the balances from the ledger. So kung meron siyang debit balance, syempre ilalagay niyo siya sa debit. Pero kung meron siyang credit balance like this capital, ilalagay nyo siya sa credit. Okay. After nun, i-add nyo lang yung mga debits and credits. Tapos, i-compare nyo yung total. So, this is an example of a trial balance. As you can see, makikita nyo sa left side, this is your account titles. So we have your cash, accounts receivable, supplies, prepaid rent, prepaid insurance, and so on and so forth. Kita nyo dito. Tapos, makikita nyo sa right side yung mga balances nila. Tapos, makikita nyo sa balances nila, merong mas nale-left, tapos merong mas right. Yung left is the debit column, yung right is the credit column. So, cash has a, kung titignan natin sa ledger, cash has a debit balance of 182,250. So, we transfer the amount to the trial balance, so 182,250. Dahil debit balance siya, ilalagay natin siya sa debit. Same goes with accounts receivable, supplies, so on and so forth. So, sa notes payable, kung makikita nyo, notes payable has a credit balance of 100,000. So, dahil credit balance siya, syempre, ilalagay natin siya sa credit. So, do this for every account title. Tapos, after nun, i-add nyo yung debits and credits. So, the total debit is 602,000. The total credit is 602,000. Makikita nyo balance ang debit and credit. That should be the case. Dahil kung hindi sila balance, meron tayong errors. Okay, so ano yung mga errors? So these are the errors. Okay, error in posting a transaction to the ledger. Meaning, meron tayong hindi na i-post sa ledger, meron tayong hindi na i-transfer sa ledger. Error in determining the account balances, or meaning meron tayong error, or meron tayong error sa pag-compute ng mga balances nila. Right? Balance was incorrectly computed, or a balance was entered in the wrong balance column. Okay. Next is error in preparing the trial balance. Maybe one of the columns of the trial balance was incorrectly added. Baka wrong lang yung pinag-add natin kung hindi sila balance. Number 2, the amount of an account balance was incorrectly recorded on the trial balance. Okay? Baka wrong lang yung pinag-copy natin from the ledger. Number 3, a debit balance was recorded on the trial balance as a credit, or vice versa, or a balance was omitted entirely. So, baka wrong lang yung linagay natin, baka instead of debit, credit pala siya. Pero, baka meron ding namisan tayo, merong isang account na hindi natin nailagay. Okay? So, in locating errors, we have the steps in locating them. First, prove the addition of trial balance columns by adding these columns in the opposite direction. Or basically, tingnan nyo lang kung tama ba talaga ang pinag-add natin. If the error does not lie in addition, determine the exact amount by which the trial balance is out of balance. Tingnan nyo lang kung ano yung difference nila. The amount of difference is often a clue to the source of the error. Kung yung difference nila is divisible by 9, right? Kung hindi sila balance tapos yung difference nila is divisible by 9, this suggests either a transposition or a slide error. Yung transposition, wrong lang yung order ng pinagsulat natin. For example, 21,750, linagay natin is 21,570. So, this is a transposition error. While a sliding error is wrong yung amount of decimal point, right? So, an example of a sliding error is 21,750 is recorded as 2,175. If you can see, wrong lang yung decimal point natin. Or nakulangan lang tayo ng 0. Right? So if these two errors is yung error nila is divisible by 9. Okay? Compare the account. For 3, compare the account in the trial balance with that in the ledger. Okay? Kung hindi siya transposition or slide error, titignan ulit natin sa ledger kung tama ba yung mga balances na linagay natin sa trial balance. Tapos kung hindi pa rin yun, recompute the balance of each ledger account. So, sa ledger na natin titignan kung baka ledger naman yung may kamali. Kung walang kamali yung ledger, trace all the ito trace ulit natin from the ledger to the journal. So, titignan ulit natin kung nai-post ba lahat ng accounts from the journal to the ledger. Okay? So, yun. This concludes our chapter, our final chapter for this sem. And so, I hope class na meron kayong naintindihan sa akin. That will be all for this sem. And please review for your final examination. Thank you, Ading, and goodbye.